For more, let's speak to Dr. Michael Oren, the former Israeli ambassador to the United States and former deputy Israeli minister and parliament member, speaking to us from New York. And Michael, put us in the context. What if this report is accurate and it fits in with the sort of pieces that seem to be developing for some kind of regional military alliance? How significant would that be to have that be Israel be an element of that together, for example, with Saudi Arabia?
It's hugely significant. It's unclear who would actually operate the system, whether Israelis would be operating a highly classified system on Saudi soil. That would be very significant indeed. There's no downside on this for anybody involved, particularly not for the Biden administration. I'm talking, just come back from Washington, where the Biden administration has suffered a severe blow in the overthrow of the Roe versus Wade decision by the Supreme Court, basically legalizing abortion. Is such a huge setback for the president. His Ukraine policy is not exactly succeeding. Russia is turning the tide against Iranian forces in the far east of Ukraine. It's not looking very good as we're approaching the midterm elections in November, where the Democrats are already trailing in the polls. So if the president can come back from the Middle East and say, look, I put together this regional defense. I've got the Israelis and the Saudis cooperating strategically using cutting edge technology against the Iranians. That's a win for the president.
Right. Now, this cutting-edge technology developed by the Israeli company Rafael is mainly a defense against smaller aerial threats like drones, for example. But how significant would it be regionally in terms of the challenge to Iran and the threat that Iran has increasingly posed to countries like Saudi Arabia, like the UAE in the Gulf?
Well, Iran has been checked in terms of its missile capacity, Calev. Both its short-range missiles, which can be intercepted by Iron Dome, its cruise missiles, which can be intercepted by an American-Israeli technology known as David Sling, and its subatomic,
supersonic,
orbital.
Yeah.
Yes, but no, it's suborbital. It goes beyond the orbit of space missiles, the Shihab 3s, which can be taken out by the Arrow 2s and the Arrow 3s, which are the joint Israeli-American project. The biggest threat we face right now is from Iranian-made drones. We've seen the effectiveness of drones on the Ukrainian battlefields. They're very difficult to intercept. They can meander around trees, around rocks, and then strike their targets. So the laser technology is essential for guarding Saudi facilities, particularly oil facilities. And certainly, again, the president of the United States is going to Saudi Arabia to cut a deal. It's basically going to be Saudi oil in return for forgetting the Khashoggi affair. The Khashoggi affair was the Saudi journalist who purportedly was assassinated by Saudi diplomats, agents on the orders of the Saudi crown prince. That's the deal on the table. I've heard from my sources in Washington that also on the table is a possible visit by the Saudi prince to Washington as part of that, sort of reconciliation. This would be an important component in reestablishing not just Israel's relationship with Saudi Arabia, but also America's relationship with Saudi Arabia.
Right, and this would also perhaps be a boost. We know a change in government coming here in Israel. There's going to be a new prime minister, Yair Lapid. He's going to be having a lot on his plate dealing with these developments that we've been discussing, which are just only a few weeks away now.
It's going to be the visit of the President Biden to Israel could not be a bigger gift for Yair Lapid. President Biden basically will fulfill the same role that President Trump fulfilled for Benjamin Netanyahu when the President Trump came here on the eve of elections in Israel and shook Benjamin Netanyahu's hand very, very fervently. President Biden will do the same thing for Yair Lapid. The big question, the wild card here, Calev, is will the United States and much of the international community sign on a renewed Iran nuclear deal. Now, talks on the renewal of that nuclear deal are set to resume in Europe. The Europeans have been very eager to cut that deal. I think on the table is an arrangement where the international community will delist part of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards that is not involved in terror, the political wing, and leave the terrorist groups on the listing. That could be acceptable to the Iranians, in which case the United States will be beefing up defense in the Middle East against a threat which the United States helped create, a rather bizarre situation. And so the United States will be coming to Yair Lapid and showing that the United States will stand by Israel if it has to defend itself against Iran.